Welcome back again to another episode. Uh, Today we're going to freaking screw around and work on painting a large-scale battle mech from the game Battletech. This is a 3D printed model. My nephew freaking printed it out for me. I found the print files online. I don't remember where the hell I got them from. But if you've ever heard of the game BattleTech, it's a tabletop freaking war game based in the distant far future where apparently tracked freaking tanks aren't good enough, so they had to go to bipedal walking freaking tanks called battle mechs. The actual game typically uses mechs that are about yay high. They're usually cardboard cutouts, little pieces of paper that stick down in little stands that have a picture of a mech on there. You can get 3D actual miniatures of the battle mechs to play on your maps. But this is a very large scale version of it, and we're going to work on painting it. I already primed it black, then we're going to do another prime on it, and after that we're going to fuck around with this thing right here. This is a Testors brand airbrush. I was at Menards a while back, and Menards is a big box freaking hardware store if they're not available in your area. And I was in there to buy some stain, and I came across over in that aisle there was a discount shelf, and they have this sitting there. I mean, it's normally a $35 paintbrush. They had it marked down to like $11. And I was like, well, fuck it. I'll go ahead and grab it. And you never know what you can do with it. It's like, I'm an impulse buyer from time to time, and I seen it. It's like, well, shit, for freaking $11, you can't go wrong with that, right? I mean, look at the friggin' pictures that you can do on it. I mean, these, I don't know if you can see these pictures or not very well. These I can believe with this little cheapy frickin' airbrush. But then they got this back here, this friggin' hockey mask with this insanely cool friggin' like flame job on there. And it's like my ass they frickin' painted it with this fucking airbrush. The chances that they painted this with this airbrush is about the same as me winning a beauty contest. So, yeah, I guess it's pretty possible they probably painted that with a friggin' with this airbrush. I mean, anything's possible, right? So, what we're gonna do first is we're gonna prime this thing with some white paint over top of the black, and it's called a zenithal prime. I don't know why I did the frickin' quotes. Because it's a real thing. It's not like some sort of painting conspiracy shit. It's not like minions of Bob Ross are going to come out and frickin' stab you if you try and do this technique. But all it is, zenithal is the zenith, where the fucking light source is shining down, where the zenith of the sun is coming down. You're going to have light on top, shadow underneath. So you prime it black first, and then you take your white freaking primer, and then you just spray over the top of it, and all the top portions of it will get white on it, and then the underside of it will stay black. And then when you actually start painting it, it'll give you a simulation of shadow. It actually works. I've seen it. I've watched freaking painters on YouTube that actually know what the fuck they're doing, unlike me. They do an extremely good job in using this zenith whatever freaking technique that I watch that do freaking really cool freaking paint job. But I haven't painted a miniature in a while. This is going to be the first one I've done in a long time, and it's a giant bastard. And we're going to play with an experimental freaking airbrush. So let me run outside real quick, and we'll prime this. Alright, so that is the Zenithal Prime. You can see how it's still freaking black underneath, white on top. It helps with the illusion of shadow. So now we just got to let that dry. And then we can piss around with this thing. The thing is, I don't want to use the tester's freaking paint that comes with it. So I'm going to have to empty out at least one of them containers. And I want to screw around with some other paints. Primer's dry. Now we'll go ahead and get this airbrush drug out, see what the hell's in the box, and we'll mess with this thing, see if it's actually going to do anything. Cool little flame template. Pickup nozzles, cleaning wires. So it's got a total of 5 paints, 5 pickup nozzles, an airbrush. I said, I don't know if this thing's gonna do anything, if it's gonna be worth the shit. You know, I spent 11 or 12 bucks on it. Now, I used to have a really nice, fancy airbrush. I think it was made by Posh, possibly. But I never could figure out how to use it. I got it for a birthday present back in like the 80s, I think it was. And I tried many, many, many times to use it. And it's like I would get a line about yay far and it would clog up, and I thought the needles were bad. You know, it's one of them nice gravity feed ones with push the button down for the air and pull back and adjust the amount of paint flow, airflow. Really nice. And I never could get it to freaking work. I got fed up with it. And back, you know, in the 80s and 90s, there was no such thing as the internet. If you want to know how something worked, you better figure it out on your own or go find a freaking book. Maybe there would be a class you could take somewhere. So I ended up just giving the thing away. Well, now there's, you know, that whole internet, and there's probably, you know, 100 million videos out there on how to properly use an airbrush. And this is, you know, this pales in comparison as far as an airbrush goes. But I want to just see how it's going to work. Now, the thing is, I don't want to use any of these tester model paints. Can of propellant to make it work. I don't have any thinner to clean the model paint, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to empty out one of these jars so I can put another paint in it. Now what I'm going to attempt to use is just cheap-ass crafts paint. And I got this called a flow improver. This is supposed to be mixed with the paint. It thins it down and it keeps it from just instantly drying as soon as air hits it, which is what I was doing wrong with my first expensive airbrush. But with this cheap-ass crafts paint, there's a distinct possibility that it won't work at all. Being that I'm just playing with this thing, I want to see if it works. If it works, great, that'll go a long ways to paint more of these bottlenecks. But I don't want to break out my really expensive Vallejo paints to try and paint a big surface like this, because this is going to be painted to it'll be painted to a standard that will represent what appears to be a decent paint job from 6-7 feet away, because it's just going to go up on a shelf and just sit up there. I didn't spend a lot of time trying to clean this thing up, being that it's 3D printed with a PLA, the plastic printing. So it's putting down layer by layer by layer, and so there's all these layer lines all over it. So even if you spent a shitload of time trying to paint this thing to make it look good, it's still going to have lines all over it. You're not going to be able to get any real good fine detail at it. But it'll look really pretty badass sitting up on the shelf, especially if I get a couple more of them up there on the shelf. So what we're going to do, we'll take a jar, and I think we'll fill this approximately halfway up. We're just going to start with this English Ivory Green. So we're go ahead and mark this thing out on approximately how much paint I got in there. So if this does work, I know where to fill the other ones. We'll call that 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Let's see how high that brings us up to. Let's go 25. That's about 25. Let's shake it up and see what its consistency looks like. Where the fuck did I put the lid? It's alright if it's a little thin, it'll just go on thin, and then you just do another layer of it. But with it going on thin, it'll help remain the different gradient between the light and the dark better too. It won't just cover it. I'm just talking out my ass, so. Well, let's give her a try, huh? How's this thing even frickin' work? Okay, so it's just gonna snap on there. Screw that down. It goes in like that. It does not stay standing for shit. Hopefully that don't leak. But that leaks. All right, let's see if that does anything. Well, it started out strong, but now I'm pretty sure we're clogged already. So we might have to add some more flow improver. Let's thin this guy up some more here. I got a goddamn fly that won't leave me alone again. Craft paint is not gonna frickin' work, or this thing is just a epic piece of shit. What we're gonna do real quick, I'm just gonna bust out some of this tester's paint and see what it does. We need to paint the barrels here. And it is already clogged. So I guess I could add flow improver to that as well. Maybe that would make a difference. But this is supposed to be already formulated to use as a freaking airbrush paint. Well, yeah, you know what? Oh well. Live and learn, right? So I guess I'm just out friggin' 15 bucks or so. I am just gonna trash it. I don't want to dick with it. I just take my tester model paints and I'll set them on the shelf with all my other shit that I'll never use. There is a distinct possibility that the reason why this was sitting on a discount shelf and it was marked like nearly 75% off of its list price is because they are just epic pieces of shit. I did read a little bit about them, and yeah, they got basically universally shit reviews. But I don't typically always listen to reviews because a lot of reviews are just angry, pissy people on the internet. I gave it a try. I don't think it worked well. Maybe if I pissed around with it, I might be able to get the tester paint to work using the flow improver. But I just think it's its particular design. That it's blowing the air across this tip, and it's supposed to be creating a siphon to draw the paint up out of there. And it's just drawing in that tip faster than it can siphon paint up. So even with flow improver, it just can't keep the nozzle clear. So I'll just do this the old school way. I'll just get out a paintbrush and I'll paint this thing. So that was a pretty exciting video right there, huh? In conclusion, don't impulse buy things off of a fucking discount shelf. Save yourself the pain in the ass. Maybe research the product, but, you know. Alright, so I pretty much called this video done. Wrapped it up, and then went about my business, and then got to thinking about, you know, if I post this, and if I ever actually get any real freaking subscribers and viewers and people watch this, they're going to come back and go, well, of course this thing failed, you freaking moron. You used goddamn cheap-ass craft paint. You were just setting yourself up for failure. And yet you're probably completely and totally right in that point. But what I didn't film, because I went back and continued to try this after I shut the camera off, because I was irritated that it didn't work, and I ended up having to hand paint the mech, which isn't anywhere near done. I just have the base coat on it. But I went back. I want to try it again since it came with Tester's enamel model paint. I went ahead and tried that first. So I just tried it straight out of the pot, just like it came packaged here, and it clogged in about 5 seconds. So I dumped half of the bottle out, thinned it down with my flow improver, and got it down to about roughly the consistency of milk, which is what you're supposed to have your paint at when you're going to do airbrushing. Tried that, and it clogged up in about 5 seconds. I tried Vallejo, like professional quality paint that people use for painting tabletop wargaming miniatures and all that, you know. Really good, high quality, expensive stuff. Thinned it down to milk, tried that, clogged this thing up in probably 5 seconds. I went as far as thinning my paint down so much that when I sprayed it on here, it just ran off the model. It was as thin, if not thinner than water, if that's possible. You know, so if you get it down so thin that it just runs off the model, what the fuck point in using it? But it didn't matter because it clogged up in about 5 frickin' seconds. Didn't matter how thin I got it. Didn't matter what paint I used. No matter how high a quality paint I used, it clogged in about 5 seconds. There is airbrush specific frickin' paint that you can go buy that's supposedly formulated for airbrushes. But I'm not going to go spend money on a paint that is essentially the paint that I'm already using. That's just pre-thinned with full improver. So why piss away even more money to find out that this thing is going to clog in 5 seconds? So in summation, if that is a word, this thing is a pile of shit. That is essentially what I take out of this. I got to stay away from them frickin' bargain bins. Stop frickin' just buying shit because you think it's a good deal. That was, I mean, at least I'm not out much. It was, you know, what, $13, whatever. But, you know, Christ, that's an 18 pack of Busch Light I could have bought instead of this goddamn thing. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed listening to me freaking bitch and rant. Go ahead and subscribe. Hit that like button. Turn on the little notification bell symbol, whatever like that. And, you know what, I'll see you next time.